My name's Dave Dubeau, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave Dubeau. And have you ever wondered how an Australian property developer conquered the challenges of the COVID-19 supply chain issues to build inflatable buildings globally? Today, my guest, Dan Lazar from Hero Holdings, he's here to share his journey of courage, creativity, and success in the world of off-market townhouse developments. Dan, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you for the invitation. It's very nice to be here.
Yeah, no problem. So there's a lot to unpack here, but let's start with the real estate right at the beginning. You know, what got you started in the real estate game?
To me, real estate was a direction that I've always wanted to go in.
Mm-hmm.
However, I feel like I lacked the confidence of going ahead up to a point when I had a chance of meeting the biggest property developer in Romania.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to become friends with him, to shadow him for a few months.
Yeah.
At some point, I was starting to kind of get confidence in my abilities that I could one day become a property developer. Relocated to Australia. After a year, I started my first development, and now in this January, we're starting the construction for our second project.
So why Australia? You know, if you're from Romania, I guess you could have gone anywhere, but why Australia?
50% of the reason is due to the fact that my wife is Australian. So we always kind of knew that at some point we may explore how Australia is. And I guess the other 50% would be the fact that Australia, up until the pandemic, was number one at immigration per capita in the world, meaning that it had the highest pressure on properties appreciating, and usually properties appreciated for the last 40 years in Australia, they doubled every 7 to 10 years. So the way properties increased in value in Australia is almost unmatched.
Yeah, it's like wherever there's growth is where there's opportunity. So you're chasing the growth that you're seeing in the numbers. So what was the first project or the first purchase that you found yourself in?
So the first one was a development already approved for 4 townhouses. I've analyzed close to 500 potential developments before I secured this one. As I said, it was already approved. I secured it with 2% down payment, a 6 months delayed settlement, so very creative terms, and also around 10% discount from the market rate around that area. And it was a very interesting experience, a little bit of a bumpy ride, I would add, due to the fact that we were building through the COVID sort of supply shortages. We encountered many supply chain issues. However, we luckily solved most of them.
Yeah, I can remember just going into the hardware store and being like, "There's no doors, like they're out of doors." So what do? You got to go hunting around town to find someone who has 6 matching pre-hung interior doors for a property. So there's definitely, especially early on in 2020, 2021 supply, it kind of worked itself out, but early on the supply chain issues for construction were certainly real. So how did you navigate that particular challenge?
It was very tough. I feel like from the get-go, we were probably going a little bit over budget with most line items, even though we had secured sort of pricing before. We were working with people that this builder that we were using worked in the past. However, they were sort of pushing on to us the increases that they were seeing as well in terms of concrete. As an idea, we had a driveway that we had to build, was initially budgeted at 26K, ended up being at 60K.
Wow.
So it's true that the concrete didn't really double in price, but also due to the demand that these traders were seeing, were also increasing their prices due to the fact that they could not really take the amount of business that they were seeing.
Raise the price until you get to a stable supply against their time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because then the other side of it, not just like the doors, let's say for instance, were short, but then the people to put them in became relatively short too, especially here in Canada, as they pretty much paid us to stay home for like 2 years. So it's not, some of those guys would have been working on some of those sites, but when you give someone $2,000 a month, there's not much motivation to go and get an extra $1,000 was what they were allowing. So um yeah, navigating those price things. So when it was all said and done, how far over the line did it end up being versus your initial projections after you did the construction?
So we had an extremely detailed budget, meaning that for, I don't know, 300 lines of cost, we had at least 2 to 3 quotations for each line of cost. And even though we went to that level of detail, we still probably went around $600,000 over budget.
And 600,000 against what was the total budget?
So the initial contract with the builder was for 1.7 million.
So like 25-30% over.
Yeah, something along those lines.
And that's one thing that's still kind of kicking around, is that before COVID, it was a lot more cost effective. Like imagine that project would have come on budget. It would have changed the numbers quite a bit, because since COVID, the builders, it hasn't come back down. It's really handcuffed a lot of development because it doesn't make sense on paper anymore. You look at it and you say, well, I'm gonna build this thing and I'm gonna be, I'm gonna have 200 or 300 or $500,000 still stuck in this thing, and for how long, right? We're banking on appreciation or something to happen in the marketplace. So, um, is that what initially got you working on these other projects like the inflatable buildings, or was that already going before you got that first property?
That was a business that I started beforehand. I sort of managed during this period, due to the increase in the construction costs, to start to expand more internationally, because airdomes were popular before, but they became even more popular after the construction prices increased due to the fact that people could no longer afford to cover their sports facility or their venue. So they became more and more appealing, especially as we improved what we were doing from a sustainability point of view and how energy efficient the product was. But to address your previous point, I feel like there's an opportunity in every crisis.
Yeah.
So in our case, development wise, even though yes, residential developments are hindered by this new
Cost.
wave of
Yeah, the new
inflation
cost.
and interest rates, there is other developments that sort of so adjusting what you do can lead to better results. Some of the biggest companies that I look up to, I feel like they started in different crises, either the 2000 dot-com bubble or the 2007 and 8 sort of mortgage and crisis. So you need to look at the landscape and see how we can adjust what you're doing. So we're, as an idea, even though the second development is it's also a residential development, we're still going ahead as we started it a long time ago. However, now our third development will be a totally different one. It will be a solar power farm. So still property, but we're chasing more cash flow, as this is something that creates a lot of passive income. And last but not least, it's clear that this inflation, even though it's affecting the construction prices, is helping people that sort of sell energy. So we're very excited excited that we're close to securing our first solar power farm sort of site.
That's interesting, chasing different types of passive income, because there's no tenants, no toilets in that project.
Yeah, it's fairly easier to develop, and it's a little bit less dependent on what the market will do to a certain degree, because you don't, the exit strategy or our exit strategy is keeping it, I don't know, for 20 years. So there might be I don't know, a decrease in the price of electricity, and then we might not see, I don't know, 20% return. We may see 15. But it doesn't really matter. Electricity for hundreds of years has increased in price. So even though there may be seasons where your business is not doing that well, if you're chasing passive income, I think this is a great strategy that you can choose.
Awesome. Yeah. Selling solar definitely is an emerging topic in the United States and the southern mid United States as well. So when it comes to real estate investing, what do you think your secret sauce is? You know, what comes easy to you that other people might find difficult to do?
To a certain degree, I feel like I'm very lucky that I had the chance to meet a number of smart people that are already in this business. So as an example, my um, this Romanian developer, the name of the company is One United Properties. I feel like he taught me to be very disrespectful with my offers.
Mm,
So I am a guy that makes a lot of offers, but most of them are disrespectful to a certain degree. People are sometimes call me crazy when they get the offers that I make. But it's a numbers game. If you want to make 10 offers, then you probably need to make them at market rate or market rate minus a few percentages. But if you are ready to make 500 offers, you can make all of them at 50% discount, and somebody will say yes. So
yeah, get rejected, right?
I've seen him buying a site. It was a huge site at 75% discount a year or 2 years after the 2008 crisis. So I
Mm,
think that gave me confidence to be very disrespectful with my offers. And perhaps another example in this direction, joining a property development course in Australia with a guy named Rob Flux, I feel like he gave me the structure on how to approach development. What are the things that I should be paying attention to?
mm-hmm,
How should I understand what a capital stack is and what implication different capital stacks may have on you? As an idea, I guess uh, my preference now is to target developments where you bring equity partners where they get a profit split, less of a
mm,
fixed return, because then
yeah.
if something goes wrong, then you're both partners in how well a project is doing or if it's not going that well, you don't have as much pressure on you.
Mm-hmm,
And I ideally targeting as much as you can passive income or long-term hold, so you don't have the pressure on you to have to sell at some point at which if the market is not doing that well, you may have to sell at a loss.
mm-hmm. So it's more about like partnerships than it is about money lent.
Yeah, I feel like doing joint ventures with equity partners is far better long term due to many reasons compared to just doing high leverage sort of with loans, due to the fact that if your project is doing extremely well, then these people will make a lot of money, therefore they'll become in a way a little bit greedy to be doing more and more projects with you. And also if the
Mm-hmm,
project is not doing that well, then you won't have as many sleepless nights that knowing that you have to pay their fixed return regardless of how well or
mm-hmm.
not well the project is doing.
So where do you want your business to go this year, you know, in 2024? What do you want? What do you see the future looking like?
So property development wise, I'm excited to kickstart our first solar power farm. I hope before the end of the year it will be fully built and starting to earn cash. Uh, Inflatable buildings wise, we're close to closing a number of huge clients for us because it's sort of still, I guess, a startup. We're in discussions to give airdoms to two Ivy League universities,
Mm-hmm.
to a number of parks and recreation sort of communities. So I feel like this year it will be the year for our airdoms company where we're going to hopefully be in all states and all countries in Europe. So we already broke the ice, in many countries and states. However, I want to be in all states before the end of the year.
So with all you've accomplished so far with your real estate investing and your other businesses, what would you say your biggest obstacle is these days?
I feel like I need to get more comfortable and better at delegating. I feel like
Mm,
myself as a
hands on it.
person, yeah, myself as a person and myself as a owner of a business would both sort of personas would do much better if they would delegate more, and I would be able to be a little bit more in a sort of zoom out sort of state of mind and a zoom in state of mind. And I've sort of I'm doing this year three things that I have done in the past, but not to this degree. One, I have no social media apps in my phone. I go to bed and I wake up reading, so then I have uh, hopefully an hour each day to reflect on what I'm doing and how I can improve. And I've sort of changed the content that I'm listening to. I don't know, deleted Spotify and so on, and now mainly listen to podcasts, and ideally podcasts where there's a billionaire that is speaking. So I feel like I can learn from everybody, but I can learn a lot more from billionaires, as that's my target where I'm hoping to get to.
Yeah, the old adage of don't take advice from people you wouldn't trade places with. You know, if you don't want their life, don't take their advice.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what are you doing right now to fund your deals?
So far we start to have a pool of people that have been with us. Um, so as an idea, our first project probably took 6 months to fund. Our second project took 2 weeks, and our third one will probably be a few days. So as you start to create a track record, um, things start to get a little bit easier fundraising wise. So hopefully, it will be a lot easier with our third project to fully fund it compared to our second one.
So what's one of the strategies right now to get access to money to fund your deals?
I feel like it's a numbers game. So depending on where you are as a developer, you may have a coefficient. So if it's your first one, you may need to go to 1,000 people to fund your deal. If your second one, you may need to go to 100. If it's your third one, you may need to go to 10. But be realistic where you are and just put the work in. If you need to go to 10,000 people, go to 10,000 people. Don't underestimate how hard fundraising is at the beginning.
Especially when you're making mistakes, and maybe in the future you'd have been able to do better in that meeting, but the meeting it's done. There's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is. And so maybe in a couple of years you can come back around. Now,
Yeah,
what are you doing right now? Sorry,
I
go
have
ahead.
something. I have a particular advice that I'd like to give to this. So there's an app that I use called fireflies.ai. So
Yeah.
this app listens to all of my phone calls, and then at the end, it gives me a summary, but secondly, it sort of gives me advice, sort of tells me, look, 10% of the call was negative, and this is how you addressed it. And then you can ask the AI, how could I have better addressed that part? So I think this is a little bit of a hack that people could apply.
Yeah, using technology, and that's a perfect example. Note-taking technologies, and it's interesting. It's classifying it as like negative or positive, depending on how it's reading the transcript, right? Or maybe even the tone.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing these days to expand that network of people that you're going to get to invest with you?
I don't do much about this expanding the network. I mainly keep in touch with the people that have been together with us in our first project and second project, and people that potentially missed out. So I send them a nice message for Christmas or the New Year. Uh, so at the moment, in this particular moment, I'm not fundraising. I will be in the next few months. But typically, I try to after doing many things in this direction, I try to book as many appointments as I can. Because if somebody doesn't do a Zoom or a Google call with you, then it's likely that he will not invest. So I feel like from doing many things, I try to book as many appointments that I can with my pool of sort of network, and usually one in, I don't know, somewhere between 1 in 10 and 1 in 30 people, after you have a call with them, they might come with you on your journey.
Yeah, definitely. If they're not willing to, jump on the phone even, then they're probably not going to invest significant capital. Now, are you a find the deal and then go get the money, or do you prefer to have your capital lined up and then go looking for deals?
I like to find the deal, secure the deal with ideally a long delayed settlement or a due diligence clause, and then find the money. So to me, the best case scenario is where I secure the deal on a due diligence clause, meaning that I have 1 month, 3 months, 6 months to get out of the deal, but the other party cannot get out of the deal.
Yeah.
And then I have time to get the money. But at the beginning, I guess the first development, I had a delayed settlement. However, I didn't have a due diligence clause, meaning that I had 6 months to find the money, or otherwise I would have lost the deposit that I paid.
So when you're presenting these deals to possible investors, how do you go about doing that?
I give them some rough numbers. I've in my first development, I actually did a presentation in front of like 100 other developers where I was very transparent with the numbers that I had in the project at that point, and I've sort of videotaped that, and I give it to prospective investors just so they can see both the good part and the bad part. I feel like in a way people are hallucinating that development is a lot less risky than it actually is. No, development is risky. You need to do your homework amazingly.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's important for me to be transparent of the risks, and also I guess by being transparent, they also gain a little bit more confidence by seeing that I don't sell them that this is the best thing that they can do. There's a number of ways they can invest. However, allocating towards property and property investing is something that should be part of any portfolio.
Yeah, it's like there's no shortage of different ways to make money in this world, but certainly real estate's one of those ones where it has a great upside, but it also, if done carelessly, can have an equal downside, right?
Yes, to me, the most developers that I've seen that fucked up in what they did, or they went broke or whatever, the main thing is leverage. So I feel like you need to be avoidant as much as you can to have high leverage. I've had a chance to meet a billionaire property developer from Australia, and the advice that he gave me at that point didn't really make sense. He told me, look, never have more than 65% leverage. To me, it didn't make sense. Why 65 when I can do 95? Because if you don't time the market right, then 65 will enable you to live to see another day, while 95 will mean that you go broke.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very, very important that you have to like balance those things out. Now, when it comes to building that like no trust, you'd mentioned that you like to get a podcast in every month or so. How do you go about building that like no trust relationship other than the podcast?
I feel like these Zoom meetings that I do are extremely important. I'll share with you another interesting situation. So in my inflatable building business, let's say last year we've quoted around $50 million worth of projects, which was around, let's say, 500 quotes. We closed the percentage of that. However, after analyzing all the quotes that we've sent, the people that we closed were the people that we had Zoom calls early on. So even though we send them a quote, we very soon after we send them the quote, we had a Zoom call. So I feel like face to face on Zoom or in person is the best way to gain somebody's confidence. And in a way, people that are not ready to take that step, you should avoid wasting their time, or them wasting your time.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the inflatable building business that you have.
Yeah, look, this is something that I've been doing since 2016. It initially started due to a need that I had. So at that point, I had a tennis club. Tennis clubs sort of disappear 6 months per year unless you have an air dome. So I bought a few air domes for the tennis club that I was owning at that point. I was experiencing them. Then because we did a great job, then we started doing them for others. Then we started to do them all across Romania, then all across Europe. Then now in the US, we recently sold an airdome in Rhode Island, close to Boston. And this is an equipment that people love it due to the fact that they can sort of double their revenue. If without it, they sort of lose revenue for 6 months per year, soccer clubs, tennis clubs, volleyball clubs, and other clubs in general. And secondly, in time, in the next 2 to 4 years, it will become 100% sort of sustainable through the fact that we're adding solar panels on the exterior membrane, making it fully sustainable from an electricity point of view. And then we're leveraging geo-exchange heat pumps to get the heating that is required, so we no longer need gas. So technology is still not there yet. You can probably do it 100% sustainable at this point, but it will be 10 times the money, and it doesn't really make sense financially. However, in the next 2 to 4 years, it will become, as technology for solar panels increases a lot, it will become financially smart to pay probably double and have an equipment that doubles your revenue and you have zero operational costs.
Yeah. I know we've got bad weather here, and we've got a dome over like one of our driving ranges. It's like a permanent structure to some degree. It's been there indefinitely. I don't even know how long it's been there, but it's not like a secured structure so much as it's a dome. Like it's literally called Golf Dome. So with inclement weather in a lot of the northern hemisphere, that's going to be huge for tennis, for golf, for pretty much anything that wasn't built as an enclosed space to enclose it, and fast and probably cheaper than building a permanent structure above it. And like maybe you don't even want
five times cheaper.
Yeah, maybe you don't want a permanent structure over your tennis courts. You want to, maybe take it down and put it up and take it down. I don't know if that's possible with what it is that your product does, but yeah, definitely people are looking for, as we mentioned earlier, with the cost of building things, people are looking for alternatives to doing construction when they have projects similar to this sort of thing. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, exactly. So how inflation and the interest rates perhaps are affecting residential development, they're sort of helping our business with the air domes, as more and more people come towards us due to the fact that air domes were an optional solution. Now they are the only solution for them to cover their facility. And I see this, one, in the number of inquiries that we see, but secondly also in the variety of the inquiries that we see. So we have nightclubs, we have churches, we have industrial storage that want to do their facility inside of an air dome. So to me, once they become 100% sustainable, the demand will explode. At the moment, it's like a 300 sort of million sort of market globally. This is a rough approximation of mine, but I think it will go above 1 billion in the next 2 to 4 years.
Yeah. Well, people are getting out and about, and I was thinking while you were mentioning that, I'm like, well, why not just build houses with it? But it's not exactly the same. That'd be kind of strange, but probably something you could do if it really comes down to these affordability crises that are happening, all over the place. You know what I mean? With immigration, population, and construction not keeping pace with the inflation, and a lot of construction projects either being held or canceled because of the costs. So definitely alternatives are needed and will likely keep rising in demand. So if people want to find out more and connect with you, get in touch about maybe your developments, or even just looking at some of the structures that you have, what should they do? How do they find you?
Easiest place would be on LinkedIn. They can search my name, Dan Lazar, and I typically am the first result, or go to hero.holdings, and that's where they can see all of the businesses that we have, because air domes and property are the biggest directions, but we have a few other things that we're doing.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by and letting people know a little bit about your journey, which is interesting, born here and doing real estate there and doing these inflatable structures all over the world. It's certainly, you certainly could have picked easier things to do, but when has easy ever been fun? So I'm glad that you're enjoying it, and I'm glad you could stop by and let people know that they don't have to just do real estate in their backyard.
Thank you. I really appreciate your questions. Were great. I'm very excited to listen to our discussion.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by, and until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.